What is up, everyone? Welcome back. We got another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show for you guys. And this one, we're doing our updated top 200. Last night, I tried to record this video and I uploaded, and the sound wasn't there, so I'm not sure what happened. So hopefully, we are good to go with tonight's video. And basically, what we're going to do here is I've been updating my rankings and my tiers. So those are live on the 2022 draft kit. But what we're doing in this video is we're going to kind of go round by round, and we're going to kind of have a draft here of the top 200 guys. So I have all my players here in the queue. We're going to kind of just basically just handpick them and go through here. And yeah, let's get it started here. The updated top 200. And we'll just kind of make notes on players along the way. Now, I think if you're picking in the top 5, there's only a handful of players that you can really choose from. The most common picks, of course, the running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. I think there's two ways to play this. If you just want a safe, reliable top 3, top 5 running back for sure, it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. If you're looking, to play a little bit riskier, I think Christian McCaffrey in a points per game situation, McCaffrey's the guy that's going to get more points per game, especially in PPR format. So I love CMC there if you want to take some risk. Otherwise, take him at number 2 overall. And then after that, I mean, there's some good running backs still on the board, but I think you kind of want to pivot and look towards the top receivers. And I have Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp projected as the top 2 receivers. Surprise, surprise. The one surprise, though, is I have Justin Jefferson ranked over Cooper Kupp. I'm a little bit more excited about that Vikings offense. And then with the new coaching staff coming over from the Rams, we're going to see Justin Jefferson do his best Cooper Kupp impersonation. So I think it's very difficult for a wide receiver to repeat as the wide receiver one. I think DeAndre Hopkins was the last one to do it. So it is possible, but I'm willing to take the upside there with Justin Jefferson. So that's kind of the top 4 for me. After that, now we're going to be looking at some guys like Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. That's kind of the middle of the first round. I think that's where you're taking some of these guys. And then some receivers here. I do have Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs in my top 10 or so. But let's go ahead and get the running backs off the board. I want to take a flyer here on Austin Eckler and Derrick Henry. What's nice about these guys is they're kind of like polar opposites. Eckler is the PPR machine, going to catch, upwards of 70 plus receptions. And then Derrick Henry is the opposite. He's only going to catch 25 to 30, but he's going to get the ball 300, 350 times, and the question is, how can Derrick Henry continue doing what he's been doing? The pace he was on last year was phenomenal, but this year, numbers are adding up. He's another year older. He's got some injuries, adding up as well. But I still think if you're playing in the middle of the first round, you have to consider Derrick Henry. So we'll put him there next to Austin Eckler. And then we're going to pivot to wide receiver. I think Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs. These guys are kind of, if you're sitting at 7-8 and the top guys are gone, you're looking at Dalvin Cook, maybe Naji Harris, maybe Travis Kelsey. But I love locking myself into the Bengals or the Buffalo Bills passing offense. These guys are studs. They're top 5 wide receivers. You can't really go wrong. And because I like the depth of round 2 running backs, you can totally just land one of these top receivers and target running back in the second round. So after that, that's where it gets a little interesting. I'm going to put Dalvin Cooking here. He's going to be kind of by himself. As the running back here. We can't forget how good Dalvin Cook is at football. I know last year was kind of up and down. He didn't score a lot of touchdowns, but again, that Vikings offense, they're going to throw the ball a little bit more. So I think in PPR, Dalvin Cook's a fine pick. And then we have the back end of the first round. Now, I kind of have a lot of running backs here that I like that I could potentially put in the first round. I think there's questions about Naji Harris, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift look good as round 2 picks. So I'm kind of hesitant to put these guys in the end of the first round. The guys that I feel pretty dang good about, though, we're going to continue here with CeeDee Lamb and Devonte Adams. These guys, again, they're going to be competing for a top 5 wide receiver finish. They're going to have a plenty of volume. They're the clear number 1 targets on their team. With CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's set for career highs in every situation. With Devonte Adams, he's not set for career highs in every situation, but he's kind of like the Jonathan Taylor of wide receivers. You just know what you're getting. You're getting a top talent, and he's going to be balling out there in Las Vegas. So I like those guys at the end of the first. If you get him in the second round, that's fantastic value. But then we're going to put Travis Kelsey in there to finish the first round. I think if you're sitting there at 12 and he's up, you have to take him with one of your 2 picks. But Kelsey, for me, he's the clear-cut number 1 tight end option. It's not necessarily he's got about a 30-point difference over Mark Andrews. With Andrews, I like Mark Andrews, but for me, the absence of Tyree Kill is just going to make me lean more into Travis Kelsey. So to me, that's the difference. You can totally just see Travis Kelsey doing what he's been doing and have no problem with taking him in the first round. And then after that, I mean, again, we're not taking a tight end here next. There's some receivers that I do like, but again, I really like this tier of running backs, and I'm just going to kind of small chunk it here. I think, again, there's tons of running backs round two. You got Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Naji Harris, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, and Leonard Fournette. Now we can quarrel about which one goes higher than the other. Again, these are just kind of tiers, but for me, I love Aaron Jones. He's going to be a focal point of that Packers offense. DeAndre Swift, he's going to catch a lot of balls. He could be a top 5 running back if he plays the full season. Joe Mixon, you got to love that new improved Bengals offensive line. They're going to win more games. They're just going to be set to run. He does lose a little bit of work in the passing game, though. On third down, he's kind of subbed out for Samaje Perine or Chris Evans. So he does get a little bit ding in the PPR, but I still think, man, touchdowns, volume, carries, like he's a guy here. He's kind of like a poor man Derrick Henry at that point, where he's just going to get a ton of touches. Another poor man's Derrick Henry is Naji Harris. He's going to get a ton of volume. I just don't know how many touchdowns he's going to get. And if you think I'm low on Naji Harris, I get it. To me, I just don't think he's a league-winning pick in the first round. I think if you can get him in the second round as your RB2, that looks to be pretty good value there. And then the upsides of a Saquon Barkley, like we haven't seen him healthy for a while. I think he's good to go. We should be excited about that Giants offense being better this year. And then you have some questions here with the NFC South backs, Alvin Kamara and Leonard Fournette. Is Kamara going to be suspended? You have to think a little bit about that risk in there as well. But when he's on the field, he's primed to be a top 5, top 10 running back those weeks. And then Leonard Fournette, man, like we love the usage for him. He's going to lead the team in carries, and he's going to be the team's pass catching back. The questions in Tampa Bay, though, remain with offensive line. And can he stay healthy for a full amount of games here? So I love the running backs in the second round. Continue to look for those guys there. And again, we're nitpicking here. These guys are all, fringe, top 10 running backs for the most part here. So take your favorite one. I kind of mentioned the guys that I like there. And then after that, we should probably get some receivers in there in the second round. And I'm coming around to some of these guys. Tyree Kill and Deebo Samuel, I've been lower than most on these guys here. So I have them kind of as end of the second round values. If you want to grab them, they do look really good there. And man, like taking a top end, say you get Austin Eckler, collecting Tyree Kill, Mike Evans, or Deebo Samuel as your number 1 wide receiver does look pretty good. But boy, oh boy, like if you start with Jefferson or Cooper Kupp or Jamar Chase and you want one of these guys as your wide receiver too, I think that could be a lot of fun. And then after that, I got some questions with Devonte, the split with Melvin Gordon. Nick Chubb doesn't catch a lot of passes, but he's super reliable as a runner. And then, there's a huge tier of wide receivers here that I just don't know if I want to take in the second round. But let's go ahead and get Mark Andrews off the board because he just kind of sticks out there as a guy that you want to make sure you get on your team. End of the second round is, I think, a pretty good spot for him. And then to round out the second round, I'm gonna put Javonte Williams in there. And keep in mind, with Javonte Williams, we know Melvin Gordon's there. 50-50 split with Melvin Gordon last year, but a brand new coaching staff. And keep in mind, like he was RB17 last year. I have him going as the RB. What is this? About RB12, RB13. So that's to me, that's fair value. And if he really tilts it towards like a 60%, 40% slip, towards his way, Javonte Williams could break into that top 10 and could be a huge boost, especially in PPR leagues. I think he's the better receiving back, and touchdowns abound, man. Like that Broncos offense last year did not really have a lot going for it. No quarterback, not a lot of passing, leading towards rushing red zone opportunities. So Javonte Williams, man, he could be a huge touchdown guy this year. So I'll put him in there at the end of round 2. And then I'll throw Nick Chubb in there just because I kind of view them similarly. They're kind of like polar opposites in a way that Nick Chubb doesn't catch a lot of passes, but he's going to run the ball a lot. Javonte Williams, you at least get the best of both. So I like both those guys there at the 2-3 turn. And now we line up our third round here. I'm still not looking at Josh Allen as a quarterback. I think if you're the first person to take a quarterback, that's probably not the winning strategy this year. You want to continue to take some of these high upside flexes. But I have this huge list of players right here, from Mike Williams, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore. Like, I really want these guys on my team this year. They do look best as a wide receiver 2 in your lineup, but I think you could potentially, get some top 10, top 12 finishes out of a good chunk of these guys here. So round 3, That's where I'm looking for a stud wide receiver. Again, round 2, I'm looking for some of the running backs here, but grab your favorite of this group in round 3. And if some of them, like if you're drafting on ESPN or if you're in a 10-man league and these guys slip into the 4th round, like slam dunk, take these guys if you can. What's going on, Porsche 23? How we doing tonight? We're just doing our top 200 rankings here for PPR purposes. Getting through here, we're kind of mid-3rd round right now. I do want to kind of, I could group Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks, Juju, and some of these guys in here. I think I'll throw Keenan Allen there at the end of the tier. He's not my favorite guy to draft in the 3rd round, especially, I get nervous about, 30 years old is a tough age for wide receivers to continue to produce, and there's been signs of decline the last couple of years for Keenan Allen. So I like him, but I'm not taking, I'm not drafting Keenan over any of these receivers that I have selected. So just keep that in mind. But then we have 4 spots left to finish in the 3rd round. And that's where I'm going to start to look for some of these running backs. You have the pass-catching beast in Travis Etienne, James Conner, who's set for another massive workload, and then Ezekiel Elliott. The community seems to be kind of sleeping on him. I think end of the 3rd round, if he slips into the 4th round, that's a big hit there. So I have him as a top 40 player. And then Etienne, man, I don't trust James Robinson. It sounds like he might not even be playing week 1, and there's potential for them to really lean into Etienne as a rusher, the first month of the year as they get James Robinson back into the swing of things. But either way, if James Robinson's in there week 1, Etienne's still going to get upwards of 15 touches per game. So I love him. These guys are all like really solid running back 2s for me in PPR leagues. And they're all involved in the passing game too. So you have that nice safe floor week to week. And now, before I get to some of these receivers here, I got to be higher on Kyle Pitts. To me, I'd rather take Kyle Pitts at the end of the 3rd round than I take Mark Andrews at the end of the 2nd round. So I got to get him in there. You're essentially buying a 1,200-yard receiver at this point as your tight end. And the real kicker with Pitts is how many touchdowns can he get? He only had the 1 last year, but if history shows Marcus Mariota was pretty dang good with Delanie Walker for a stretch there, maybe 2 or 3 seasons with Delanie Walker as a top 5 tight end. And their offense looked pretty dang good in preseason. So I think Pitts, big play potential. He's going to be, catching probably 6-7 balls per game, almost 80 to 100 yards most often. So I love the high floor there. And then the kicker is going to be the touchdown. So that's our 3rd round. And as we get into the 4th round, again, I'm still not looking for those quarterbacks yet. I like to wait. I'll be a little bit lower on those guys here, but I do have I have a massive group of wide receivers here that I'm willing to take in the 4th round. So let's go ahead and get these guys off the board. Starting with Brandon Cooks, just super safe and reliable. Like we know we're going to get, over 1,000 yards. We're probably going to get 6 to 8 touchdowns and probably upwards of 80 some receptions. So he's super safe, reliable. With Juju, you're getting the number 2 target for Patrick Mahomes. And they went out and got him in free agency. They have a plan for him. He's the clear number 1 receiver on that team. I like Juju Smith-Schuster a lot there. He's going to be very competitive with Travis Kelsey for targets. And then Allen Robinson. Just think back to last year, guys. We were drafting Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp like in the 3rd and 4th rounds of fantasy drafts. So there's definitely room for 2 wide receivers. And I think before Woods got hurt, I think he was a top 12 wide receiver. So keep that in mind. Don't sleep on Allen Robinson. I think he's much better than Robert Woods. And in this role, Robinson could be a guy that just blows it out of the water with touchdowns too. He looked like a red zone guy in a lot of the clips that I was seeing. So I like Allen Robinson here. Michael Thomas is an interesting guy. Again, he's a little bit of a risky player, but if he's healthy and good to go, if you say Michael Thomas plays a full 16-game season or 17-game season, it's going to look pretty good for him by the end of the season. He's going to lead the team in receptions and probably flirt with 1,100 yards, something like that. And then we get to an interesting group of young guys. So that's kind of the veteran group that I have in the 4th round. The young guns, Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They all have some question marks, right? Jalen Waddle, he's going to be behind Tyree Kill, but I think he has a legit chance to lead the team in receptions. Super highly talented. He was a top 12 wide receiver last year. Terry McLaurin, now it's Carson Wentz, but it's still a slight upgrade from the guys he's caught passes from in the past. You got Taylor Heineke, Alex Smith, a couple other guys mixed in there. So Terry McLaurin locked and loaded as a top 20, top 24 wide receiver. He's safe. I know he's going to be the guy that they're looking for, when they need to throw the ball. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm a little bit higher on him than most people, but the bull case for Amon-Ra St. Brown is there's no way he does what he did at the end of last year, just because there was just no target competition. Hopkinson was missing. They didn't have another wide receiver. They didn't have DeAndre Swift for some of those games. But I think I have a feeling that with even, adding DJ Chark and a healthy Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, you're still going to see upwards of 5 to 6 catches per game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he, to me, is a super safe wide receiver too, and he looks good as your, your number 3 or your flex. But I just think he's kind of a poor man's Cooper Kupp in that terms. He's kind of a not a super fun pick, but I just think with especially with a guy with Jared Goff, like he's going to dink and dunk, and he's going to take those easy throws. So those guys all intrigue me in the 4th round. And now, again, I'm a little bit lower on some of the running backs that you would see in the 4th round here, but I'm going to we're going to pivot here. Let's get Josh Allen off the board. I think the 4th round is probably the highest I would take him, but I'm not taking him over a lot of these receivers and running backs that we have listed here. Let's go ahead and look at the running backs now. I'm high on AJ Dillon, Edmonds, Elijah Mitchell. These guys I'm not willing to take in the 4th round. There's some guys here that do go in the 4th round. That's Cam Akers and David Montgomery, but I'm not feeling it. I think there's more receivers and some other players that I like more than these guys. Notice how I'm a little bit lower on Breece Hall. So I'm going to pivot here, and we're going to look at some more of these wide receivers here. I got Christian Kirk, Marquise Brown, and Rashad Bateman here in the 4th round. And I know nobody's really got these guys in the 4th round. I think Marquise Brown, maybe. Rashad Bateman's kind of a 5th round pick, but Christian Kirk, you want to be higher than consensus on Christian Kirk. I think in a lot of ESPN leagues, he goes, it depends if it's 10 or 12, but he's kind of like in the 80s or 90s overall. But I think you're buying a top 20 wide receiver. He's going to lead that team in receptions upwards about 80 or 90. And then you got Rashad Bateman, of course, stepping into that Marquise Brown, 146 vacated targets. Rashad's probably going to see 130 of those. And then, of course, Marquise Brown in Arizona playing with his former college quarterback. I think that's good numbers there, especially with DeAndre Hopkins missing. So, and then we'll throw Justin Herbert in there to end the 4th round. And then we can kind of look towards some other positions in the 5th round. But I see we got a question in here from the Mooch Man. Let me pull this up here. The Mooch Man says, trade Robert Woods, Mac Jones, and DJ Chark for MVS, Lawrence, and Renfro in a 2 QB league, 3 flex league. So trade Robert Woods, Mac Jones, and DJ Chark away. You get MVS, Trevor Lawrence, and Renfro. I think I'm doing this trade, man. You're upgrading at quarterback position. I think most people would agree. Trevor Lawrence is an upgrade to Mac Jones. Lawrence has wheels. He's going to run the ball for 300, 400 yards too. And I think the touchdowns there are going to be pretty equal. So I like Trevor Lawrence over Mac Jones. That's a significant upgrade. And then to me, you're getting the best receiver of the group here with Hunter Renfro. I think DJ Chark's kind of a boom bust guy, but I don't mind him on my bench. Robert Woods, I like him. He's the number 1 receiver for Tannehill, but I just get nervous about 1, his age, and 2, coming off a serious knee injury. That makes me a little bit nervous. So to me, I think you're getting 1, the best QB of this group, and you're getting the best receiver in this group. And then MVS, kind of very similar value to DJ Chark, where he's a boom bust guy. You're going to pull him up for your flex. Number 3 target for the Chiefs here. So I think in a 2 QB league, I want to upgrade Trevor Lawrence. I want to upgrade to Trevor Lawrence from Mac Jones. So I think I'm taking this. I'm taking this, man. Porsche says nah. But what about Breece Hall season? I'm nervous about Breece Hall, man. He's technically, I know he's a high rookie running back pick, but the problem I have with Breece Hall is it's the Jets. It's the offensive line. They're not going to be in a situation where they win a lot of games, maybe 4 to 6 wins by the end of the year. So they're not going to be able to rack up a lot of carries. And then they really, really, really like Michael Carter. Carter's been kind of the number 1 running back for them in preseason here, and they've given him the starter treatment. Like they had 17 of their 22 starters sit the other night. Breece Hall was not one of them. So that's concerning to me. I view Breece Hall more as like a top 30 flex play at this point here. So I think we'll get to him in a second here, but I think the overall ADP is a little bit high for Breece. I'd rather take some other guys that I feel a little bit better about. But let's get into it. We're moving into the 5th round here, so let's see what we can do. I think in the 5th round, you're kind of looking for Mahomes here, maybe some of these other quarterbacks here, but I think we got to continue to get, maybe we get Darren Waller off the board here in the 5th. But I want to be higher on some of these wide receivers here. Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Jerry Jeudy, and Deontay Johnson. These guys all feel like pretty safe wide receiver 3 flexes for me. I love Elijah Moore. I like Darnell Mooney, the number 1 target in that offense easily. Jerry Jeudy's got some fun upside as well. And then Deontay Johnson's going to be a safe PPR floor guy. So I like those guys there. Porsche says, yeah, I hear Breece Hall like in a couple categories that only like. Yeah, athletically, man. He hit all the metrics. He really tested very, very well. That's why he blew up in the combine. And he's got all the talent in him to be that guy, but I don't like the treatment that they've been giving to Michael Carter. I think it could be a nice pick, but for where he's going, I mean, you're going to spend a 4th or 5th round pick. I'd almost rather just, if you want a running back in his range, like just take AJ Dillon, take take some of these other running backs. I think that you can find in that same range. Yeah, Jay Ajayi, interesting. I have good feelings about Breece Hall, but I think where he's being drafted, I like other players more. I really like the receivers in his range too. But let's get Darren Waller off the board here in the middle of the 5th round, and we're kind of going slow here, so I got to pick up the pace. But Darren Waller, well, with the 5th round pick, I think he's kind of holding out right now, which raises some concerns. But I think he should get that deal settled fairly quickly. Let's go ahead and get Chris Godwin, Gabe Davis, DK Metcalf off the board here. These guys are 5th round picks. I think I'm starting to get more comfortable with Chris Godwin. I know he's coming off of a knee injury, but you want a piece of that. I think in the 5th round, he could pay off huge dividends. Gabe Davis, number 2 receiver in Buffalo, man. He could have a massive breakout season. And then DK Metcalf, I know it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but someone's got to catch the ball there. I know it's going to be ugly, but they're going to lose a lot of games and throw the ball in the second half. So Metcalf could be a fun 5th round pick. And then what I want to do, we got 4 picks left in the 5th round. I want to get some of these running backs in there, but I still think it's a little bit too early. Let's go ahead. We have 4 picks here. I'm going to throw the quarterbacks in there because I think most people would say, oh, you can get these quarterbacks in the 6th round. I want to be a little bit higher than consensus, but I don't think you can go wrong taking. So I was a little bit lower on Allen and Herbert. They're low-end 4th round picks, but if you can get one of Mahomes, Hurts, Murray, Jackson at the end of the 5th round, I think you're feeling pretty dang good about that. So be a little bit earlier to the 6th round party. I think that's where people are kind of looking for these QBs. But now that we're in the 6th round, we hit receiver pretty hard. We got some, these guys are all wide receiver 3 flexes at this point. So let's go ahead and get some of actually we'll start the 6th round with George Kittle. I think that's where you got to look for him if you want him to be your tight end 1. Let's see here. Wait, it wasn't a Jai. Sorry for the randomness. I can't remember either, but there's good histories on Breece Hall's side. Usually the first running back taken in the NFL draft is a top 24 running back. So we'll see with him. But let's go ahead and get some of these 6th round running backs. I have a bunch of them here, and I'll put Breece Hall into the 6th round here. So let me see here. We'll get Breece in there. And you're asking to talk about Kittle and Ayuk and Elijah. So the 49ers, it's going to be a run-heavy team. And what I'm nervous about George Kittle is I know he has top 5 tight end upside, but I think his volatility is pretty intense. He has some high highs and some low lows. And sometimes I just get worried because you have some pretty good, competition for targets with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. I think Ayuk came on strong at the end of last year, and he's actually the guy that, of all the 49ers, I'm most bullish about Brandon Ayuk as a weapon. He was the camp MVP, it sounded like. And with Elijah Mitchell, it just seems like they don't know who their running back 2 is. Like they said Elijah Mitchell had a hamstring thing, but it's been good for him to rest up this month. And I just think they trust him. They want to make sure he is ready to go for week 1. So Elijah Mitchell, I think he's looking good like a running back too. And they're going to want to make sure he stays healthy. So I think expecting him to be limited with his touches early, and they're trying to prolong him for the full season. So I like Elijah Mitchell. I'm kind of off Deebo at ADP, and I like Ayuk. But I'm just interested, man. I think the best take there, if you want to grab a 49er, you probably want to grab the QB Trey Lance. That might be the best, safest way to do it. That way you get a little bit of everything. But we're in here at the end of the 6th round, and I have that huge run of running backs. A lot of these guys are kind of all over the place, but I want to make sure I get some of those guys if I need to be higher on them. Damian Pierce, another guy I want to be higher on than consensus. But I want to get Hunter Renfro off the list here. There's a lot of targets to go around, but dude, he's going to be the Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type of that offense from Josh McDaniels. So he's a super safe wide receiver 3 for me. And if we look around here, how many spots did I have left there? I have 2 spots left here. I'll put Alan Lazard and Amari Cooper in there because they're low-hanging fruit wide receiver 1s on teams here. Not the best situations. We don't know if we can trust them, but I think as your wide receiver 3 flex, I think that's fair value for some of these guys. So into the 6th round, more likely they'll fall into the 7th round for you. And now we're moving and grooving into the 7th round. And this is where I want to get some more RBs off the board. So let's get Damian Pierce, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and J.K. Dobbins off the board here. Damian Pierce, man, I think you need to be higher on him than what ADP or ESPN or Yahoo, whatever your format is. You want to be higher on him than consensus. He's going to be, I know it's on the Texans, but if any of the rookie running backs excite me, I think it's him with his potential there. He's got Marlon Mack and the ghost of Rex Burkhead to compete with for touches, and he just looks very, very explosive. If you haven't seen his preseason game, he looked like he's got juice. So I'm excited about Damian Pierce. I think he could be a workhorse guy that gets upwards of 200 plus carries and will do some damage in PPR purposes for you. Tony Pollard, I know he's the number 2 behind Ezekiel Elliott, but he's got weekly RB2 flex value most weeks. And just because of their lack of wide receiver depth right now, I think Pollard could be more used in the passing game. Maybe you see Zeke and Pollard on the field together. He's a guy I want to get him on my team. And if you get him as your RB3, I think you feel pretty good about that. And then Josh Jacobs and J.K. Dobbins, a little bit nervous about both those guys. They're both kind of touchdown dependent. J.K. Dobbins, of course, coming off of a serious knee injury. But Jacobs he's going to lose the passing down work that he's had last year. And they're talking up Amir Abdullah. They're talking up the rookie Zamir White. So he's got a little bit of competition there. So these guys they're fine low-end running back 2s for me, but I just feel a little bit shaky about them. So let's get into the 7th round here. We'll get some tight ends off the board here. I think Dallas Goddard, Dalton Schultz, and TJ Hawkinson are kind of, if you miss on some of the top guys, I'm fine with pulling one of these guys in the 7th round. If I had to choose my guy, I want Dallas Goddard. I think he is the one that is set to explode. He had a really nice finish to end of the year. And who knows, the help of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the outside might give Dallas Goddard some really, really nice opportunities. And just to be a high volume kind of target guy, upwards of 7-8 targets per game. So I like Goddard a lot of high leverage situations for him. To end the 7th round, we got 5 picks to do it. Let's go ahead and throw Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, and Trey Lance. I think you can get some of these guys in the 8th round, but I want to be a little bit higher than consensus on them. I think Trey Lance could just go nuts on us and be a top 5 QB. So I like, if you missed on some of the top guys, I'm totally cool with collecting some of these guys. They all have top 5 upside every week. We love their offenses and their weapons. So look for those QBs there. And then to finish out the 7th round here, let's get Brandon Ayuk off the board. And I'll throw Adam Thielen in there. I know Adam Thielen's kind of gross, older veteran receiver here, but he's been having a really good camp. He's going to be a team red zone leader. He's been a touchdown machine the last few years here. So if you get him as your 3 or your flex, I feel pretty good about that. So that'll finish out the 7th round for us. And we'll move into the 8th round now. And this is probably where I want to start looking at some fun wide receivers again. So Jacoby Myers, Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore, Chris Olave, Drake London, Devonta Smith. These guys are all really nice wide receiver 3 flex plays for you. Guys that could be on your bench. I'm higher on Jacoby Myers in a lot of leagues here, but the dude's going to catch 80 to 90 balls this year. Super safe and reliable PPR machine. He's kind of like a in that slot mold that New England's had in the past. He's kind of that guy for them, and he's the clear receiver that I trust on the Patriots here. Kadarius Toney, a high risk pick, but it could be a high reward as well. I know he's got a lot of injuries and things like that, but if you want a stab here at the Giants' #1 wide receiver, it could be Toney. I want to be higher on Rondale Moore too, because they're talking him up about using him as a Christian Kirk and a Chase Edmonds replacement. He's going to get carries. He's going to get slot work. They're going to move him around, find ways to get him the ball quickly. And then we get the rookies here. Chris Olave, Drake London. I love these guys as wide receiver 3 flexes on my team. And then the Devonta Smith there as a potential wide receiver 3 flex for you, or coming off the bench. We got a few more picks here in the 8th round. I'll go ahead and get Tom Brady and Dak Prescott. These guys are kind of the last of the stud quarterbacks here, and then we get into some questions with some of these guys here. But Brady and Dak, you know what you're getting with these guys. I want to be totally, these guys are just safe and reliable. We know what we're getting. And both good offenses. I'm actually a little bit nervous about the Cowboys offense losing Tyron Smith, but I think we'll get into that a little bit later. I think we'll cool it on some of these wide receivers. Let's go ahead and start chunking some of these running backs. Now, I'm super high on Nahim Heinz. I want to go ahead and just chunk these 6 running backs in here. If you can pull, I guess, let me paste these 4 up there first, end of the 8th round here. And then we'll start the 9th round here with some running backs. But Kareem Hunt, you're getting a safe and steady running back 2 for PPR, a flex play at worst. Nahim Heinz, I want to be higher than consensus on Nahim Heinz. He's just a PPR back that I want. He's going to catch over 60 balls this year. It sounded like he was the camp MVP this year. Like anytime that someone would talk about the Colts offense, they're like, holy crap, Nahim Heinz is getting usage. And he might be their second best leading receiver this year. So I love him. Looks really good as a flex play or number 3 running back on your team. Devin Singletary, don't sleep on him. He's still the de facto number 1 running back there. They're going to use some of the other guys there, but again, that's a high octane offense. They're going to be able to run the ball with Singletary. And then you get to the Patriots guys, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris. I think ADP has flipped. Like Ramondre's ahead of him. I'm willing to take Ramondre, but still collect Damian Harris if you can. And then there's Miles Sanders in the 9th round. He's going to, be in a committee, but he's still going to lead the team probably in carries as a rusher. And in the 9th round, there is some guys here that I still like. The tight ends are starting to look good. Dawson Knox, Zach Ertz, a couple receivers. Let's get some of these receivers off the board. I have good feelings about Russell Gage. I have good feelings about Chase Claypool, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd. These guys are all bench receivers for me, but with Russell Gage, you're getting a piece of Tom Brady in that offense. He only really, he's competing with Julio Jones and an injured Chris Godwin, but all those Tampa Bay receivers are fragile, man. Like Mike Evans with soft tissue stuff, Godwin coming back from an injury. Julio Jones is old. I think Russell Gage could be just super reliable, and he's a value. Like by the end of the year, Russell Gage could be leading the team in receptions. Who knows? Chase Claypool is going to be the slot receiver for Pittsburgh, worth putting on your bench. And then Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, just kind of guys that nice, name power, guys that look good as potential wingers off your bench for you. And then in the 9th round here, let's go ahead and get, what do we got? I got 6 spots to fill. I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to take these 6 running backs because this is kind of the end of a big tier for me at the running back spot. Rashad Penny, lead back for Seattle. Not a great offense, but you're getting a lead back. Melvin Gordon, going to be useful. Low volume, I think, this year compared to last year, but still a safe and steady potential flex guy, bye week fill in for you. If anything happens to Devonte, you got yourself maybe a league winner. And then we get the Washington backs. I have Brian Robinson, Gibson, and J.D. McKissic. I think you want to take whatever one's cheapest. Brian Robinson, he might lead the team in carries. McKissic probably going to lead the team in running back receptions. Gibson's just kind of a guy that I'm not willing to gamble on. He's just out of favor there. Brian Robinson looking pretty good in preseason and could be the goal line back, whereas McKissick's the pass catching back. So I think Gibson kind of gets lost in the mix there. And then Michael Carter, we were talking with Porsche here about Breece Hall, and I got to pump the brakes on Breece Hall because they like Michael Carter. He's year 2 in that system. He is probably the team's 3rd down back. He knows blitz protections and pickups very well. And if Joe Flacco plays, Carter's going to get a lot of work there. So I think he's a guy. Give me Michael Carter at ADP over Breece Hall. If that's a bold take, I'm willing to take it. And now we get to these guys are all bench players that we have here. So we'll pivot to tight end. I think there's a group of tight ends here that I feel very intrigued with. I'm going to list my favorites here. We're going to go with Ertz, Knox, and Kmet. With Ertz, you're getting a pretty good, reliable tight end target, probably double-digit PPR points per game. He's going to get off to a hot start with no DeAndre Hopkins. Dawson Knox, you're attaching yourself to Josh Allen. Probably higher volatility week to week. He's a touchdown guy. But he does have the opportunity to be the 3rd, 4th target at worst in most games here. And then Cole Kmet, the clear number 2 target in the Bears system. He's going to be a 100-target guy. Touchdowns hopefully go his way this year. But let's get this. I have an interesting quarterback tier here for you guys next. I think if you want to wait for quarterback, you can totally do it in 1 QB leagues. And if in the 10th round, if you can get one of Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Stafford, Rodgers, and then I'm including Trevor Lawrence into this tier because what Cousins, Carr, Stafford, and Rodgers do not offer, Trevor Lawrence does, and that's the rushing upside. Lawrence is going to run for a few touchdowns. He's going to run for, 300 to 400 yards per game, which could, close the gap on some of these veteran passing quarterbacks that we like. So I love getting some of these guys here. Don't draft a QB2. If you want to draft a QB2, you could maybe draft 2 of these guys and play matchups, but in a 1 QB league, it really doesn't pay dividends to draft 2 QBs. And then in the 10th round, now we're just purely looking for upside. I'm going to finish the 10th round here with some fun running backs for you guys to target. I love these guys on my bench. I don't expect them to start for me anytime soon, but if anything happens and they look good and maybe get more opportunity, that's Kenneth Gainwell, James Cook, Rashad White, and Darrell Henderson. Henderson's actually got some work there with Cam Akers, which could be of interest. Especially, keep in mind, Akers is coming off an Achilles tear, roughly 1 year removed from it. He came back a little early last year, but it sounds like they're not committed to making Akers a bell cow. So Henderson can kind of be a thorn in the side there. And then these guys all have nice pass catching roles. And if anything happens to Leonard Fournette, oh goodness, Rachaad White could be a player. So just some fun guys I want to get on my bench. Moving into the 11th round here, we got a lot more running backs that we could potentially take, some fun backup running backs here. Maybe we pivot here. I want to look at the wide receivers here because there's a group of receivers here. Jahan Dotson, DJ Chark, KJ Osborne, Josh Palmer, Nico Collins, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think these guys are all fun pieces to put on your bench. Everyone's kind of sleeping on Jahan Dotson, I think, but he's locked into the number 2 receiver role, and he's actually been the camp gem from Washington. DJ Chark, number 2 receiver in Detroit. I think he's got a lot to prove. He's made a lot of big highlight catches in camp right now. Minnesota, the people in Minnesota are talking up KJ Osborne as a potential 900 to 1,000-yard receiver. And if you're nervous about Adam Thielen staying healthy, you should like KJ Osborne because he's the guy that would benefit the most if that happens. And then some fun year 2 receivers, Josh Palmer, Nico Collins. Palmer is going to be the number 3 receiver in Justin Herbert's offense. And then Nico Collins, the number 2 target for the Houston Texans, who are going to have to throw the ball a lot in the second half. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling, just a guy here who you could maybe throw out there on a given week there as a bye week fill-in, or if he hits some big plays, that could be kind of fun. Notice how I'm not very excited about some of these veteran receivers here. I'm going to put, I'm going to put Parker kind of down here. I want to get Robert Woods and DeAndre Hopkins off my board. Robert Woods is low-hanging fruit. He's a wide receiver 1 in that offense. But again, I coming off a knee injury, I don't love it. DeAndre Hopkins, what's tough about that is you have to stomach 6 weeks of him being suspended. You can't even put him in your IR spot. So you have to have a deeper bench for DeAndre Hopkins. And when he comes back, is he going to be himself? He's 30 years old now, a lot more target competition than he's had in the past. So a little bit nervous about Hopkins. He could be a wide receiver 3 flex, though, when he comes back to play. So heavy receiver round in the 11th. And if I have to throw one guy in there, I guess I'll throw the rookies in here, George Pickens and Garrett Wilson. Both fun flex options for you guys that I could be starting at some point. I think they're going to take some time. We'll see what the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh does, as well as the quarterback situation in New York Jets system. Let's go ahead and I got 2 spots here. I'll throw some more tight ends in here. David Njoku and Pat Freiermuth. People are sleeping on Njoku. He's one of the most slept on tight ends, I think, in this class for fantasy football this year. Jacoby Brissett, man, he's a dink and dunker, and he's had a lot of success during the tight end position. After Amari Cooper, Njoku's probably the next best up for targets. So he's a guy that I think is pretty easy as a tight end too. And then Freiermuth, again, it's tougher to take Pittsburgh receivers this year because we don't know what we're getting from the quarterback situation, and the offensive line's kind of bad. But Freiermuth is a guy that could probably lead that team in touchdowns this year. So moving into the 12th round, you got Winston, some fun QBs here. We'll lock in these fun QBs. Round 12, that's fine here. Backup QBs that got some rushing upside and things like that. But I want to pivot towards the running back situation because I got a bunch of them here. Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert, Khalil Herbert, Zamir White, James Robinson, Alexander Madison, Tyler Algier, Kenneth Walker, Tyrion Davis-Price. Let's get these guys in there. These guys are just really nice pieces to have on your bench. They're all kind of handcuffy at that point here, but they do have some upside. If something breaks their way, they could be league winners at some point. I think you can make a case for all of those guys here. In the 13th round, again, we've been hitting the running backs kind of hard here. Let me get some of these, these veteran receivers, kind of old reliables off the board here. Devonte Parker. I'm going to rank, let's rank some of these more fun players ahead of them. You got Isaiah McKenzie, starting slot receiver for Buffalo. He could be very nice this year. Think about Cole Beasley. He's had, 80, 90 receptions in some seasons the last few years with Buffalo. And then the rookie Jalen Tolbert. I like Jalen Tolbert, but I think there's going to be competition from Noah Brown. He's kind of to me, it goes Lamb, Schultz, and then I almost trust Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard to be involved in the passing game. Tolbert's going to be kind of hard to trust, but I think there's some report there that's going pretty well. I mean, I could have put Tolbert up here with, George Pickens and Garrett Wilson. He's a guy, but I think they're just kind of a tier above him. So I like Tolbert, not willing to reach on him though. And then the veterans, Devonte Parker. Grab one of these Jags receivers. They're going to be the number 2, number 3 target. Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, and then Jarvis Landry is the number 3 for Jameis Winston, playing back in his hometown state there. I like Landry as a sleeper. We'll kind of pull from some of these wide receivers. Let's hit to some of these tight ends, though. You got Irv Smith, Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, Evan Ingram. We got a huge list of tight ends. We'll end it at Hayden Hurst here. Do I have enough room to get these guys in that round? I think I do. Perfect. So take a flyer on one of these guys as your tight end too. Herb Smith is got a thumb injury, but it sounds like he's on track to play week 1. Hunter Henry's going to be touchdown dependent, so if you play in standard leagues, he could be useful. Tyler Higbee, probably the number 3 target in that offense. Van Jefferson's got multiple knee surgeries this offseason here, so I like Higbee as a sleeper. Evan Ingram, another sleeper here. They paid him, I think he's like the 4th highest paid Jag this season. They paid him good money to be there. He's going to be a high volume guy, I think, there, and he's looked good in preseason. He's had a lot of receptions, a lot of highlight plays. He's going to make a couple mistake mental drops every now and then, but he's still a good pick. And then don't sleep on Noah Fant, especially if Drew Lock's the starter at some point. They have the rapport there. He's the clear number 3 target in that offense. And then Hayden Hurst, like CJ Uzomah was tight end 19 last year. Hayden Hurst in 2020 was a top 10 tight end. So he's a sleeper that I enjoy taking at this point of the draft. And then round 14, let's get some of these fun upside running backs off the board. We'll kind of end it at Mike Davis here. Let's pop that in there. Hassan Haskins, potential backup there for Derrick Henry, as well as Dontrell Hilliard. You got Isaiah Pacheco there, Isaiah Spiller again. These guys are all just kind of handcuffs, but worth a spot at the end of your bench if you can. These guys could be burst into a huge opportunity if an injury or two falls their way. I have 3 more picks left to make in the 14th round. Let's get some rookie wide receivers off the board. Treylon Burks, Romeo Doubs, and then I'll throw in we'll throw in Sky Moore. We'll continue the rookie wide receiver trend here next. But just some high-end rookies. I think you want to try and get a rookie receiver in your draft here. We're going to continue to take some of these fun high upside rookies here. We're going to continue with Kyle Phillips, and we'll even throw in Christian Watson into that mix. I'll put Watson there. I'm going to put David Bell slightly ahead of Wan'Dale Robinson. I think these guys are all fine as like your last receiver on your bench. All have a lot of opportunity, all relatively high draft picks besides Kyle Phillips, who's going to be the starting slot receiver there. We'll pivot back to tight end here. These guys are all low-hanging fruit tight ends. I have a bunch of them here. And again, these guys are all starting tight ends on their team. I feel good about Everett with Herbert. I like Cooper because I mentioned I'm a little bit nervous about the wide receivers in Tennessee. Mo Alie Cox, kind of the number 2, number 3 target in that offense for Matt Ryan, who's always been good with his tight end. I'm low on Gesicki. I just don't like taking him. I think he gets kind of lost there. They value blocking tight ends. Brevin Jordan could be the number 2, number 3 target in that offense. Albert Okwuegbunam could be a lot of fun as Russell Wilson's tight end. And then some sleepers here, Robert Tonyan and Tyler Conklin for you. Probably no mock tonight. We've covered all the mocks I wanted to cover. Maybe tomorrow night we do a live mock draft, but I think I'm going to cool it on the mocks. I needed to get this top 200 out there before the weekend for you guys, so I'm working on that. But maybe later. I'm not sure. Maybe we take a breather on the mock drafts for tonight. But let's see. We need 16th round picks. At this point, it's pretty ugly. Let's get some of these nasty old veteran receivers off the board here. I know I'm really low on Julio Jones. It's fine. I don't think he's a league-winning pick this year. We'll get some of these quarterbacks off the board here as well. If in a 1 QB league, you shouldn't be taking some of these guys here. And again, a lot of the running backs that I have here are just kind of like whatever. These guys are all kind of replacements. Running back 3s, not necessarily handcuffs on their team. So I'll kind of put those guys down here. If I had to, again, we got all the receivers in there now. Let's get Isaiah Likely, Logan Thomas in here into the 16th round. These guys are fun tight end flyers for you. If I had to pick one running back to get on the list here, let's move up. I'll move up Jerick McKinnon just because it's the Chiefs. And then 1, 2, 3, our final 5 picks of the round here. I suppose we could put some of these these quarterbacks, but again, I just don't think we should be taking some of these quarterbacks in a 1 QB league. Mark Ingram backing up Alvin Kamara could be nice. Darrell Williams, Boston Scott. Let's get these guys. These guys are just kind of veteran running backs we can trust. And it's the end of the video here, so I'm really not really loving a lot of these picks here, but we'll finish it out with a flyer on some running backs here. Take a running back. Who knows? Maybe week 1 he could pop and something happens there. But that's it. That's the top 200. Razor the punter just got some bad news from I don't know. The punter just got some bad news from Schefter. But anyways, that's the top 200 video here. I'm going to upload this to the draft kit. So get your PDF if you haven't gotten your draft kit already. And yeah, that was fun. I mean, it comes with team defense, kicker, and some bye weeks on there for you. But that's the top 200. I did leave some tight ends and some guys hanging down here. But for the most part, I think I made a list here that you guys are going to probably be ahead of ADP on a lot of people here. Let some guys fall. And yeah, have a good weekend. Have a good draft. Let me know if you guys need anything specific. If you need a mock draft or something, we can do that. And then, yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. We'll see you in a future video. Peace.